We are also live on YouTube, so in case anyone gets kicked out of the room or and cannot join once again, you can watch us on YouTube. I'll just share the link in the chat. And awesome. Thank you everyone for waiting and for waiting for us to get started. Can you see my screen? Yes, the screen works. Okay, perfect. Doesn't change on. Right. Awesome. We'll get started. Almost everyone. Yeah, I think some people are still joining, but we can get started now. If I'm not audible, maybe I think everyone else can hear me. So if I'm still not audible, Malcolm, you can probably check your audio if it's working fine. But as we wait for some more people to join, I think I want to kickstart with just to get a sense of the room where everyone is joining from. So I'd invite you to let us know which city or country you're joining us from and put it in the chat. I'll put mine as well. I am in Bangalore in India. I'm not audible to others as well. Rohan, can you hear me all right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I like maybe others can try turning on the sound on their devices. If it still doesn't work, I'm gonna stop talking anyways in a little while because Rohan's gonna talk for most of for most of the call. And I can see a lot of people from well, we have someone from Cambodia, Pakistan, Canada, Kenya, a lot of people from Kenya, Nigeria, Namibia. So yeah, everyone's and someone from Lucknow in India as well. I'm traveling there next week. And yeah, Rohan is joining us from Melbourne. Awesome. So we have quite a global audience. Oh, well, awesome. I think I'll kickstart the event now. And to start, I'm going to give you a little bit, a brief introduction, very short introduction about entry level, and then we're going to jump into talking to Rohan and learning more about his career as a data analyst, his life at Google, and also some tips for you to get started in the career of a data analyst. Before we start, please be respectful in the chat and during the call. You can use the chat option to ask any questions if you have, leave comments and feedback for the event or for entry level. And I'd highly appreciate if you can turn the camera on. It makes us feel that we're talking to other humans. So if you can turn on the camera, and later on in the during the event, we'll also invite people to ask questions for interactions. So we will be either asking you to raise your hand sometimes. You can try it now by finding the button in the more section, raise your hand. Um, we'll invite you to join the chat once again in a little while. And yeah, the event is of course a lot more fun when we interact with each other. So definitely type in your questions, follow-up questions to what I'm asking to Rohan. Um, or of course, if you want to ask a question towards the end, we'll also invite you to come on stage and unmute yourself and ask a question as well. So again, to get a better sense of the room where everyone is at in terms of their data analyst journey, if you could put it in the chat again, what level you're at in your data analyst journey. If you're a complete beginner, type 1. If you've taken a few courses, type 2. If you already have an internship in that space, type 3. Or if you're currently working, could be any job in tech, type 1 or type 4. So, well, as expected, a lot of people who are complete beginners, which is this event is meant for complete beginners. We also have already has someone who has taken a few courses and already working in tech. Great. So you're at the right place. We're going to be talking a lot about how to get started as a beginner in this field as well. I think everyone's facing a voice issue. I don't know what to, maybe. Give me a second. Yeah, maybe I'll plug in my earphones and that will help the folks who can't hear me. Awesome. Am I audible now? Better? Can someone let me know in the chat?
Yeah, I can hear you. It is better.
Perfect. Awesome. So again, jumping into the introduction, sorry for the disruptions there with the voice. Well, yeah, so as you can see, a lot of us over here are beginners who are trying to learn how to get started as a data analyst, and you are in the right space and right place and with entry level as well. Here, just wanted to give a brief introduction on the kind of courses we offer and the benefits of learning with entry level as well. So these are the current courses that we are currently offering at entry level. Data analyst is one of our most popular courses as well, which is where we teach Excel, Google Sheets, and Tableau. And we have an intermediate course as well where we teach SQL. But other than that, we have courses in product management, venture capital, Python, UX design. And one of our latest course that's coming out next week is cybersecurity for beginners. So if you're interested in starting your career in tech, definitely check out these courses. We also have a special offer if you decide to sign up at the end of this event, but you'll have to stay tuned until the end of this event to get that offer. Why learn with entry level? I think personally, I feel well the courses are good, but there's three top reasons where I think it's worth learning with entry level. The first one is the community aspect. We have a solid community on Discord where a lot of people help each other, ask questions, and learn with other students while they're taking the course. We also have events like this where we talk with experts and instructors who share their expertise, along with, well, 100 people in this call. So there's more opportunities to meet like-minded people who are in the same boat as yourself. The second one is a portfolio where you actually learn by doing. So, but in the end of each course, you create a portfolio of what you have learned, which is a solid proof of work that you know a particular skill. And the last one is peer reviews, where you not only do your own work, but you also review other people's work, and other people will review your work as well, which is a mandatory part of finishing a course, which helps you learn the skills that you will apply in the workspace. And as of this month, we also launched a new AI feature where you will not only get feedback from your peers, but there's an AI tool which will give you feedback as well. So before you submit your portfolio, you can get some feedback from 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 the AI tool as well. So that gives you solid feedback to prepare your portfolio and apply for jobs as you get started in your job search. And with that, enough of my talking, and I'd like to introduce our guest for today, Rohan. Welcome. Rohan is a senior data analyst at Google, and I'm just going to pin you and bring you to the spotlight as well. And
Oh,
yeah, welcome to the call, Rohan.
thank you for having me.
I think I'll let you make your introduction. So my first question to you would be, please tell us a little bit about yourself and everyone present here.
Yeah, sure. I've been working in tech for the last, I think, 14 years now. And I started off working in digital marketing. I've worked at Google for the last 6 years. Before that, I was working agency side, started dabbling in data 2 years into my career. And ever since then, um, yeah, I've been working in data and in tech since then.
Awesome. I think I'd love to know. how did you actually get started in this space? And well, before tech, you mentioned you were also working in marketing.
Yep.
So how did that actually happen? How did you land your first role? And what excited you about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, working in marketing, you have a lot of touch points across the business. You not only work across the marketing function, but you also get to get a lot of data from that, a lot of first party data from the company, but also get have third party sources give you data. You can also look at competitor data while you're doing marketing. So all of those touch points got me interested in data analysis, and that was actually the one thing that I really enjoyed about my job. And slowly and steadily, I started drifting towards my first forte into data analysis was just looking at Google Analytics. That was very basic, but that got me very interested, and I upskilled in SQL or SQL, as people would call it. And then, yeah, one thing led to the other. Then I learned Tableau. I used to use Excel pretty frequently for my role. So I already had some of those core skills, so it was easy to pivot.
Awesome. Very exciting journey. And I think data is a skill that is not only, it's not like a skill in it's a skill that permeates all the industries. So whether that's
Right.
marketing or games or well, restaurant, F&B, it's something that students can apply wherever they like and get
Yeah,
that.
data is everywhere.
Yeah. Um, Well, I think Google is one of those companies which is like a dream company for a lot of people. It's like when it's like especially like the Gen Z and everyone. We just grown up hearing about Google all the times. Like let's just Google everything. And you're working at Google, so I'm sure many others are interested in how that process was for you to find a job at Google and making that transition from. I think you were at Telstra before Google. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So Telstra is, for everyone who doesn't know, is a telecom provider. In Australia, it's actually it is the largest telecom provider. Um, but yeah, my journey at Google, it actually took me 6 years to get into Google. There was 4 job interviews within that time, where for 2 of them I made it to the final round. But Google has a very stringent process, so for each of those job interviews, I actually had to go through about 6 to 8 rounds, depending on the role that I was applying for. Um, but yeah, persistence, I guess, got me to Google. And while I was doing all of that, I was fortunate enough to be working in digital marketing. So I was working really closely with Google and Microsoft and my peers in those companies. So it was easy to network, and I think that's key as well, because irrespective of where you apply or which city you apply for Google, if you do have connections or if someone can refer you within the company, that definitely helps with getting your foot through the door, at least for the recruitment process.
right.
After you get picked for the first interview, it's completely on your merit. So lots of hours of preparation, lots of coaching from people who actually worked at Google and have had been through the process. But yeah, took 6 years. Eventually got there. And yeah, I've been here for the last 5, 6 years now.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, 6 interviews sound intense as well.
Yeah, each round it's quite intense. And even after you give those 6 interviews, your resume is actually sent to a finalizing committee. So you actually may not get picked after those 6 interviews either, which is which is really daunting when you go through the process.
Yeah, I can imagine. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And now, well, you've been there for 6 years. What does your, I think one of the questions that we get from aspiring data analysts is what, like they know what skills they want to learn, what tools they need to learn, but they're not really sure of what their day-to-day might look like, which can be
Yeah.
different for different companies. But what does it look like for you, or like a week to week? Because a day is very minuscule. So what does a week look like in your role?
Yeah. So I guess I work on the Google Ads side of the business. So my role would be a little different from someone who works on the finance side of Google. But from a Google Ads point of view, like on a typical day, um, I usually have a few tasks. One of the key ones that we, I guess, do every quarter or from a week to week basis is just forecasting how much the client can spend and actually helping the frontline sellers or the sales team to go out and pitch for more budget so that they can work and get more revenue for Google. That's one area of it, but that actually includes a lot of sources of data. So we obviously have access to our proprietary data. The public facing arm of that data set is Google Trends. We have access to the non-index side of Google Trends, which is quite useful because we pitch to quite a few of the clients. So uh, that is one thing that sets my job apart from I guess any other role within Google because I have access. We are the custodians of that first party data within Google. Um, and then once all the data sources are together and I have the data together, I usually use like Excel for some very basic kind of analysis, but on a day-to-day basis, it's either Data Studio because that's just easier for us and everything's integrated within our data stack. We also have access to Tableau, so using one of those two tools for data visualization. And then usually it comes together as a story. So I think that storytelling piece is what a lot of data analysts don't, I guess, pay too much attention to. But if you're working for a company like Google, that storytelling piece is what actually um, gets you, I guess, the client, or you win more revenue off of the storytelling piece.
Right. That makes sense. Awesome. So if I were to, well, if I'll assume that I'll ask the question as a beginner in data
Yeah.
analyst, and if I am thinking of a career in data analysis, what are some um, like how can I know that I'm ready to start a career in data analysis? Like I've been fascinated by learning these cool tools and playing with numbers. Um, or what are some steps that I can do to to get started in that space? Like if I know nothing about data analysis, just the things that you mentioned until now, what steps can I take to begin my journey to learn more about data analysis?
Yeah, and look, I think to start in any role, you need to be curious and you need to be open to learning, and that's more so with data analysis or anything to do with data. Like if you want to become a data scientist, it's the same thing. You can learn all the tools you want, but if you don't actually enjoy getting into the nitty-gritty of the data that's available, then you will get bored very easily
Mhm.
in this job. Like some of the days that I spend, there will be 4 or 5 hours that I just spend in SQL, just writing code, and that might be boring for someone. It's very interesting to me. But if the code breaks, then you have to debug it, and it's a bit of a pain sometimes. But that's a part of the job. So you have to be interested in every aspect, even some of the boring bits of the job. But I think if someone wants to start, just be curious about why things are happening. So if you, let's just say you want to analyze the stock market, why is the stock going up or why is it going down? Are there macro trends that are related to that? Is there something going on in the economy because of which the stock is going up or down? So just be curious about why something is happening, and then slowly and steadily I think step one would be to get good at Excel. Now, before I started my career, I thought I was really good at Excel and I had no idea about pivot tables. And then when I learned about pivot tables, that just completely changed my perspective of using Excel. Excel is not just formulas. Like pivot tables is a very useful and macros and stuff like that. So you can get really good at some basic tools, and that'll see you through getting into that entry level job. And then slowly and steadily, you can start to upskill on SQL. SQL is like core, so learn Excel and SQL or SQL. Those would be the two starting points. Um, and there are a lot of public data sets available. Google has one, IBM has one, where you can go in and dabble with some of the data that they have. So you don't necessarily need to create your own data to analyze through SQL or through Excel. You can use those publicly available data sets.
Awesome. Wonderful. I think one question that has been popping up on everyone's mind these days is with the advancement of AI as well, and not
Yeah.
just ChatGPT, but a lot of other tools is like if a career in this space, how would that change? And especially when we talk about Excel and SQL and writing code, that are
Yeah.
essential skills to have, but will like any tools like generative AI make us redundant in the near future, like in a few years? What are your thoughts on, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think for data, I mean, look, natural progression within data analysis is become a data analyst, and then you keep learning, and then eventually you become a data scientist, and then you can decide whether you want to go into data engineering and stuff, which actually powers a lot of the back end for the AI. So it's machine learning as well as writing code and for the actual AI. So I think from a career perspective, it'll definitely get impacted. Like even now, when I started at Google, everything that we were writing was we use Google Colab most of the time. And Google actually has its own version of SQL. So that's another thing when you go to work at any company like Amazon, Google, Facebook, they'll have their own version of SQL because they have their own backend databases which work better with their version of SQL. So you will have to adapt a little bit. But even now, like Bard is powering a lot of the code that we're writing. So it helps us write better code. But then let's say if I don't know the name of a database, it actually helps me really quickly instead of me going and either asking a colleague or searching through all of the databases that we have access to. It actually helps um, get that get that in front of me pretty quickly. So I think in the next, like I would say 4 to 5 years, it's probably going to be a very useful tool rather than a competitor that would make us redundant. But yeah, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, definitely going to change the way we do our job. I think Python right now is the most in-demand language.
Mhm.
So the next level after SQL would be to learn Python because you can do a lot of stuff in Python that you can do with SQL as well.
Right. So that also means that if someone learns these skills right now, they can use AI as a friend and an assistant that
Yeah.
can do the job, like help them do the job better.
Yeah, like Copilot integrates with Excel. It
Yep.
helps you write the formulas. So you literally give it a command in English,
Yep.
um, and yeah, it'll write the formula for you. Um, so yeah, both sides, Microsoft, Google, all the AI is definitely there to help you right now.
Awesome. I'll also take a minute to let the audience know that if you have any questions or follow-up questions to Rohan's answer, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to be going ahead with my questions, which are also questions from the students because they filled in the questionnaire while signing up for the event, and I compiled them.
Cool.
Great. I think a common misconception or like a misunderstanding that often happens when talking about data roles is the differences between data analyst, data scientists, and like how the role switches between the two, and
Hmm.
what are the is yeah, like what skills, like will these skills when they learn the basics of data analytics, will that help them become and transfer into data science as well? Because some people
Yeah.
prefer that more technical role. Um, could you, right, like in like simply help us understand the differences between the different roles available in the space of data as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think, yeah, data analyst, as I said, like the natural progression for data analyst would be, I mean, you could be more than happy to just be a data analyst, but the natural progression would be either going into like a strategy and insights role. So a lot of the companies that collect data at large, like Nielsen, they just produce thought leadership for the industry, and that's what strategy and insights managers usually do. Within companies, that's usually to those roles overlap a lot with the customer experience side of things. um, from a core data perspective, you could obviously branch into data science, and then data science is a whole beast by itself. Like you can become a data engineer. You could just focus on the machine learning and training the model side of things. You could just work on cleaning the data and that side of things. So there's a lot of career opportunities within data science as well. But the reason why I chose this role is because eventually I want to become a data engineer, and that's what I'm actually studying for that now, doing courses for that now. So SQL is the core for all of that. And
Okay.
then when you learn Python, that'll be the next level up. And once you learn Python, there are libraries within Python that are used specifically for machine learning and data science. Um, but all of these core skills actually translate into you can become a more generalist, which is or the storytelling part of it, which is the strategy and insights part of it, or you could do the data science part of it, which is more, I guess, nerdy and data side of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're both.
Awesome. So yeah, we never stop learning in this space, I guess,
Yeah,
since you're still taking like well upskilling, yeah,
yeah,
for the next role. Awesome. I think someone had a specific question on the data that you mentioned, like how to access the data sets from IBM and Google that you mentioned.
yeah. I can send over some links after this. If there's a way to share them, then yeah, we can share them. There's a few websites that you can go to.
Awesome. And I also, well, I think well, just to bring it back to what entry level does is we have
Yeah,
courses in all three topics. So if anyone, I think someone had a question on then not good at Excel. I think it's if you practice, you'll become good at it. And there's the question, the courses at entry level are prepared for beginners who don't really have any background in data and want to get started. So we have a course in Excel and Tableau, then the next course is on SQL and Tableau. And then we also have a Python course. We'll share the links with you by email and by the end of this call. And I think my favorite is the Python course is one of my favorites. So if anyone who has a good understanding of, and you don't need an understanding of data analysis for this Python course, tech generally you would. So yeah, check those courses out. Um, if if um, if anyone wants to check them out right now during the call as well.
and usually those courses will also have their own raw data for the assignments that you need to do.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I think one question I have is like a very basic question. Maybe like a lot of students ask us this question. That's why I'm like reiterating this question. Might sound very simple. Is the difference, not the difference, it's like the choice of tool between Google Sheets and Excel,
Yeah.
and what to learn first. Because Excel sometimes for some users is a paid tool as well. Like not everyone has access to it for
Yep.
free. Comes with the
Hmm.
Microsoft Office subscription, and Google, of course, Google Sheets is free of cost. Um,
Yeah.
I think I've learned both, and I think they're like 90% the same. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
And if some beginner is like, does it matter what tool they learn between Google Sheets or Excel, or is it fine to choose any?
Yeah, I would say whatever is accessible to you. I mean, depends. A lot of students actually get Excel front loaded on their laptops. There's also the cloud version of Excel, which is the micro a part of the Microsoft 365 suite. So I learned Excel first because that's was readily available to me. Google Sheets actually didn't exist at that point of time, or was like in its infancy, so you couldn't do much. As of today, obviously, I work at Google, so a lot of my almost all my work is in Google Sheets. We use Google Sheets for the backend data side of things. We also have access to BigQuery within Data Studio, so that helps us write some SQL code. BigQuery and SQL is almost similar. Um, but yeah, we we have access to both. So whatever you have access to, I guess a lot of my colleagues in my field use Excel and Sheets on a daily basis. So do I. But a lot of our work, a lot of my work is done in Sheets.
Perfect. Yeah, I like that the cloud version, like I mean, Sheets is on the like on the cloud, so it's easy to access on multiple devices. Makes it much easier, and it's much more. Personally, I feel it's more user friendly than
Yeah,
using Microsoft Excel.
100%.
Awesome. Because our course is actually teaches Google Sheets, just because everyone has
Yeah,
access to
and
it.
it's available to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, well, let's assume someone has gone through, well, we like a lot of students do finish these online courses and have some experience in other fields and trying to move into data.
Hmm.
But a lot of time they're, well, like then they start looking for jobs and land an entry level data analyst position,
Yeah,
um, but face a lot of resume rejection in the starts. And I think the main reason which everyone feels is because they don't have experience. But to build experience, they actually need a job, which is what we at entry level were trying to solve for. Through these courses, students can build projects and showcase
yeah,
that they have experience. What tips would you share for someone who, again, is a beginner and but has spent some time doing a lot of courses, has done a course on entry level, maybe done courses on other tools and platforms as well. Um, how can this start with a job search process and make themselves stand out?
yeah. I think just including a link to all of your projects. Like if you have a portfolio, definitely um, build that out. My wife is a UX designer, so she just like you. So I'm sure you have a portfolio somewhere. So has definitely built out a portfolio. For me, when I was starting out, because it was digital marketing, I didn't really need a portfolio. But within the job, I had to show skills of projects that I had already done to pivot into data analysis. So I think whatever you can do to showcase all the projects you've done. I think one thing that I'm doing now just to skill up for data science is actually solve something that you're curious about. So within Google, for example, we have opportunities to take up something called a 20% project, which is essentially just helping out another team, which is on top of your day-to-day role. And for me, that's on the data science side of things. So that's made it quite easy to find a project to solve an issue, but you could use all of those publicly available data sets to actually solve an issue or to there's tons of research that's being done now. So you could feed into some of the open research that is available out there. So whatever you can do to highlight those projects that you're doing through the courses or doing on your own, that would definitely help you stand out. And then the other thing is networking. That helped me quite a bit when I was looking for the role at Google. So if you can network, go to any kind of industry events. There's a lot across the world, so whatever is available to you, definitely go and network.
Awesome. So share your projects, share what you're working on, and talk to people.
Yeah.
Easy. um, well, sounds easy.
Yeah, networking it was the part that was more difficult for me because working in data normally you work in the background.
Right.
So that's something that I've had to obviously learn and step out of my comfort zone.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the questions. Say Tableau. We already discussed Tableau. I think I think from Tableau the question is uh I think the two I see Power BI also becoming really
Yeah.
popular as a tool these days. So what
Yep.
would you recommend for someone to learn Tableau or Power BI or either or?
Yeah, usually Tableau, unless you're in university, they might have a license, but usually Tableau will need a license. Power BI is more readily available to people just as a part of the Microsoft suite. If you don't have access to either of them, then the easiest thing would be to use Looker Studio or Data Studio, whatever you want to call it, which is the Google version of the data visualization tool. If you don't have access to any of those, then but you're learning Python, you can do the data visualization within Python. So few options over there.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so many options and tools to learn. Someone asked, would you recommend us to take the Google Data Analyst professional course on Coursera?
I would say do the entry level one first. But yeah, the Google one's pretty good. I think the two most popular ones is the Google one and the IBM one. They both teach different. They both teach Python, but they teach one of them teaches R and the other one teaches Tableau, I believe. I did the IBM one because I intentionally didn't want to do the Google one because I had access to everything and I was using all of that on a day-to-day basis. But I think for most people, the Google one will be more easily digestible because that's just the way Google presents its content. So I don't have a preference for either. But yeah, Google one's pretty good.
Awesome. What about the interviews? How are so let's say someone has landed an interview and with the
Mhm.
projects that they worked on and the networks came to help, but they have to now appear for the interview. How are the interviews usually structured for data analysts? Since it's sort of like it's a little technical role as well, where
Yeah.
you're working with tools. So how are the interviews usually structured for beginner roles? And what tips would you provide for someone who has landed an interview?
Yeah, look, usually first round or maybe even the second round would be the first round would probably be with HR. That's the most common procedure. Second round would probably be with the hiring manager, where they'll not necessarily go into what your coding skills are, but they'll definitely ask you what languages you know, or whether you know Python and SQL. They might even ask you some really basic questions about SQL. Um, but it's usually the third and the fourth round where that are the coding rounds. And in those rounds, they usually give you a data set and they ask you a few questions off of that data set. Um, Most likely, if it's SQL, they'll ask you some basic questions like how do you call a table? So select star from, that's the most basic syntax. Um, to more complicated ones. So they might ask you about inner joins and outer joins, just to test your knowledge, because that's pretty core when you start to crawl larger databases. So yeah, those technical rounds are usually the third and the fourth round, and that's where when you're doing courses like the one on entry level, you're actually coding and you're actually getting your work checked by your peers, so they can give you more feedback on the way you're writing the code, but also if you do have errors, and they can guide you. So definitely recommend doing a course that's more hands-on.
Awesome. Wonderful. I think I'll just look at the two questions that we've got. Well, someone says they've done the entry-level course and now going to do the course on Coursera, but they want to land a job in the US. And I think that also, I had a question with that too. Like I'll add on to a question where my question was like, is a degree in data science like a college degree really necessary for landing a role in this field for a
Yeah.
beginner data analyst? And I think I'll club that with this question by Harry, where he's asking, will doing these courses make it easier to move to the US and find a job there?
Yeah. 100%. I would say not everyone has, I guess, access to a degree, but everyone has nowadays at least has access to a phone or a computer. So if you don't want to, I guess, put in 2 or 3 years in learning or getting a degree, then doing certificates is definitely the way to go. I mean, I think even on the Coursera one for Google, they actually say that this is built off of the internal Google training courses that we do as well, as data analysts. And they don't guarantee you a job, but they definitely say that it makes you job ready. Um, I think especially a lot of tech companies have started looking beyond whether you have a degree or not. So, but that is combined with your work experience. So let's say if you have work experience but don't really have a degree, then they're willing to look at that work experience in the absence of a degree. But if you are pivoting careers, or if you are doing a degree but you've done the certificate, it'll definitely give you an edge. So certificate courses definitely help.
Awesome. And what about someone's asking if they can learn SQL without any knowledge in tech before?
Yeah, SQL's pretty easy if you know. I mean, all the syntaxes are in basic English, so then it's not complicated. This is literally pretty basic to learn SQL. I think the syntaxes are pretty basic. It's how you put things together is complicated. So once you get more proficient with SQL as well as using larger databases, you'll start to figure things out on your own. But yeah, definitely no problem if you haven't done it before.
Awesome. Yeah, I found SQL to be very beginner friendly. Like we teach the SQL after they learn Google Sheets and Tableau, just to understand how the data analysis process work in our intermediate
Yeah,
course. But I feel that anyone can start the SQL course anytime as well, because it's you don't need to know Excel to be able to learn how to use SQL. It definitely helps to understand how data is structured and what kind of
Yeah,
information you
absolutely.
want from the data, like problem framing and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think just one thing to add there, you may know a language, but if you don't, I guess if you don't use it in the correct way or in a structured way, so if you have really messy data, like if there's like 10 tables or if there's 10 sources that the data is coming from and they're all duplicated, the number one task for a data analyst is to first clean the data, because if the data isn't clean, then your output will be will not be correct or will not be what you want it to be. So I think, yeah, learning SQL is good, and it's important to know SQL and your use of Excel. But I think using it in the right way, so starting from point one to clean the data, understanding what data is coming in, I think those are also core basic, um, I guess, skills that you need to learn alongside that.
I think Victoria asked that, okay, they've already paid for a course at Udemy. Is it different? I think how Udemy is different from entry level, well, how entry level is different from Udemy is that, well, I think Excel, especially these tool-based courses, you can practically learn anywhere. You can just play around with it and start learning as well. So, to be completely honest, but what really helps if you do a course with entry level is the community aspect of it, that you can share your project, your with other students and understand how they're learning, talk to them. So the networking part, even though everyone is a beginner, but eventually that's going to help you out. And second is the project-based learning, where you're not just consuming content, but you're actually applying it and also submitting a portfolio and then getting feedback from other students. So those are some things that really helps. That's how I would say learning on entry level is different, and you get to work on different projects. So I think someone also asked how many projects can you build in a course on entry level for your portfolio. So in the beginner data analyst course, you work on one project to learn the process of data analysis. So which is actually funnily a data set on Udemy. And then you have a choice to choose a data set of your choice and apply your skills, sort of like a capstone project. We also provide you options of data sets. Like there's some really fun data sets, like analyzing the Taylor Swift concert data, or like Airbnb rentals data set, which is available. All these data sets are available for free on a lot of tools like Kaggle, and like other websites have them. So yeah, you usually you build two projects in the course, but then after you finish the course, we also provide briefs for two to three more projects that you can do on your own time. Those are not graded or reviewed, but you can continue to build on those projects after finishing the entry level course as well. And maybe what I can do is I can quickly show an example of portfolio of a student who finished a data analyst course. While maybe Rohan, like there's a question from someone who's asking what's the first coding language. I'm assuming you mean coding for data analysis. I feel Python is the most useful one, but do you want to answer
Yeah.
that, Rohan? Yeah, Python.
Well, I learned C++. That was my first
Okay.
language, but I don't remember it anymore. I can still dabble in it, but yeah, I think Python, like if you have to, Python's everywhere. Like they use it for software engineering, and they use it for uh, data science. They use it for data analysis. So I would say learn SQL, and then because you can use SQL alongside Python. But then, yeah, for programming language, probably Python is the most in demand, and it's probably going to be the in demand for the next few years.
Awesome. Collins data cybersecurity. Yeah, I think you'll have to. I mean, if you want a career in data, you might need to do a course again in data analysis.
Yeah.
Uh, the cybersecurity one. How much is the entry level course? That actually depends on which country you're from. So I'll paste the link there, and you can get the actual price on if you scroll down on the page based on which country you're in. Yeah, South Africa. Yeah, I wouldn't know. Every country, I think, different prices, so you can check it there. Cool. I think maybe, yeah, unless anyone has any questions, any more questions, put it in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll bring up a couple of portfolios from our beginner course, so we can have a look at that. Cool. Yeah, I've opened up a few. I'll quickly go through them because they're quite long. Yeah, so everyone does it in their own unique way, but this is just a sample portfolio from someone who finished the course actually, well, October 23, and did the analysis on Taylor Swift concert. So that's basically what they like go through, just like some professional background, project description, and then share their analysis from the findings. So I'll just quickly scroll through it. Probably not enough time to we teach problem framing. So what kind of questions you can ask as an analyst for the data that you're looking at. And then you do the actual analysis, build some pivot tables, build some charts. Yeah. And at the end, you write some, yeah, I think, yeah, and write some summary at the end. Yeah, so similarly, like different styles of portfolios, people often are quite creative when creating portfolios. And you can access some more portfolios if you want to have a look at them on the course page as well. Yeah, stop share. I can even share some links over here in chat if you want to read them in your free time. Have a look at them. But all right, yeah, I think we almost are awesome. Jennifer's here. Yeah, we already got the information on the IBM and the Google data sets that Rohan was speaking about. Awesome. I guess my last question to you, Rohan, would be before we start wrapping this up is any
Yes.
last advice or tips for someone who can sometimes be confused and scared by hearing about all the layoffs that are happening in tech every now and then, but
Yeah.
also want to build a career in this space, which can sometimes seem so volatile, but also exciting. And there's countless opportunities. Like there's not only data, but there's a lot of different fields. So it can sometimes be hard to choose as well. So
Yeah.
any word of wisdom or tips for someone who wants to learn data analysis, but is not sure how to again enter this industry.
Yeah, I would say every company needs a data analyst. Um, the title might be masked under a business analyst, but a lot of times business analysts also need to have the same kind of core skills. Um, Tech is going through a rough time right now, but tech was booming during COVID just because of the nature of the market. So I think there's every industry will see ups and downs. Um, Google's obviously been in the news recently for layoffs, but I think you should just progress with your learning because yeah, tech's not the only industry I guess that uses data analysts.
Mhm.
I have a lot of friends who work for the government. I have a lot of friends who work in banking and data analysts or use the same kind of skills. In banking, you'd be a quantitative analyst. So different titles, but core is still the same, Python and
Yeah,
SQL. So yeah, definitely keep learning. Um, tech's not the only field.
Yeah.
We're going through a rough time, but I think yeah, by next year things should settle down.
Awesome. Thanks, Rohan. To start, just to wrap up, if anyone has any questions for entry level about enrolling into a course, or if you are already in a course and if you have an issue or any questions, definitely reach out to support@entrylevel.net. And signups are always open for entry level courses. So a course just started yesterday, so you missed the deadline for that if you haven't signed up. But if you want to sign up for the courses that are starting in February, here's a coupon for everyone attending the event uh, live, and you'll also get an email with these details. The coupon code is data caps 0124, and you get a 10% off on the price. And it expires this Sunday. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Any questions or concerns, we'd be happy to answer them. I think we also have a interview guarantee offer going on right now. We have a lot of content that was bonus content along with the course content on teaching you how to actually, after finishing a course, prepare for job applications and present yourself, your portfolio, how to ace interviews. And we have a interview guarantee offer. So if you don't land an interview, if you follow the tips that we have, you can ask for a refund. So which makes it less risky for you if you give it a full shot. So definitely check it out. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Rohan, for your time, especially during the night. It's already, I think, 9 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock
Yeah,
in Melbourne.
9 o'clock.
So,
But yeah, thank you
right,
for having me. It was really good chatting with you.
awesome. Thanks, Rohan. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See ya.
All right, thanks, everyone. I'm just gonna